Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tap into Magic podcast. So, today, some giant news dropped, kind of a historical moment for the game, I think. So the one of the more prominent YouTube channels that is officially sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, the people who make Magic the Gathering, the Command Zone. You may know them if you've watched any Commander gameplay, like Game Nights. That's probably the biggest Magic the Gathering gameplay channel out there. So they closely tied to Wizards, talk to them a lot. They have a lot of connections with Wizards, and are just in close ties. They reveal a lot of products, they reveal a lot of decks. Get a lot of insider knowledge, and a lot of them, have in the past and present been on boards of rules committees and whatnot. So they're very much heavily tied into. The game itself, and they've been around quite a long time just in a player space. And so today they revealed that I think it's Legendary Entertainment and Hasbro Entertainment are partnering to make a Magic the Gathering movie, a live action one, which is something that I've been saying alongside with the TV series that has needed to happen for a long time. And really, before we get into kind of what that means, I kind of want to talk about some of this stuff that's kind of happened in the past. So I don't know how many years ago. I think it was like 2019 that it started. I might be wrong on that date, but it was quite a few years ago. There was these initial rumors that a Magic the Gathering Netflix series, an animated one, was in the works. And I think there's a little bit here and there talked about it, but we didn't really get much other than I think Jace was supposed to be the main character alongside Gideon. I'm fairly sure. Maybe it was Chandra. I'm not exactly sure the main characters, but there wasn't a lot said on it for a very long time. And then years went by, and they eventually said that it was going to be on indefinite hiatus, and we pretty much weren't getting the series anymore. But very recently, within the past, I think 6 months to a year, it was announced that they were rebooting the series and taking it off of hiatus, which was really, really cool to hear. And that at some point they'd be releasing it, I think, with a new cast. I think it was Johnny is going to be one of the main characters or whatever. But in general, I thought that was a really cool idea, and the reason why I think it's such an awesome thing to have this happen is one large part of the grievances people have with modern Magic is the universe is beyond product, because it's so separate in a lot of ways, and in most ways, from the natural Magic world and sort of the themes of what Magic as a high fantasy game sort of represent. Dating all the way back to the original Alpha, Beta, and Limited sets. Magic has always sort of had its specific themes, even traveling between planes with different, thematic elements. It still had this sort of core idea, and very much, it always felt like Magic. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially the older players who, started maybe back in the 90s or even recently, that they feel like that Magic is sort of losing that touch, and that, they're these awesome properties and these awesome planes that they could be very much using, maybe aren't utilized as much, or maybe that they're used more as gags and as, side off products, because we've really gotten to the sort of Avengers Endgame type thing where all these different stories are colliding, and each individual plane maybe does not get as much story as it once did, especially because blocks haven't been a thing for a very long time. We might get one or two sets that connect here and there, but they aren't an overarching idea anymore. We don't get as much time with each set, and they don't leave as heavy of an impact. I honestly can't really remember the last time we got something as big as Ravnica with all of the guilds. There's so much going around that I think that with the introduction of universes beyond product, especially ones that aren't Lord of the Rings, that are not even Warhammer, we're getting Fortnite and SpongeBob and Street Fighter and all these really random weird My Little Pony, all these weird products that have nothing really to do with Magic, and even to Marvel to a large extent there. It kind of feel disjointed to a lot of people. And not to say these are any of my personal beliefs. I do think that Magic has a great world, and this is sort of why I kind of want to talk about both points here. I do think it's very reasonable from a financial and a company standpoint that they would be continuing to do these products, because I believe it was actually the Lord of the Rings set that is the best selling of all time. Those numbers might have changed, or that might be, this is all, take all this information with a grain of salt. But it makes sense, and one thing I also hear a lot of the time is that these, the all these universes beyond project is what brings in a large amount of new players, especially to Commander, being the sort of premier entry level format, though a lot of people don't think it is either. But as sort of a gateway into the game. So I hear that all the time. People that may have not even been in that have gone out of Magic, I've heard that came back in because of some sort of universes beyond product, and some people, with the Assassin's Creed or the Jurassic Park, literally just buy those cards to hang them on the wall. They may never actually play, but they still purchase some product, even if it's secondary, because of what it's associated with, because of the brands that Wizards is bringing in. So it very much makes sense that to get more eyes on something, you do a collaboration. You're like, hey, here's this brand that we like, or here's this famous property that everyone loves, or what have you. It very much makes sense to that. But in that same degree, I do think that Magic has such rich lore, and I really wish they went more of the Warhammer route with releasing more long form content. Because I know there have been a lot of MTG novels in the past, but we don't get too much of that anymore. Like I know there's articles you can read, there's sort of snippets of maybe new sets and whatnot, but we don't get that fully fledged stories and like novels, whatever it happens to be. We don't get as much long form content, and I do think also it's very daunting, even to me as someone who I would consider pretty enfranchised, to find a place to start looking, because Magic spans over such a long period of time with so many different events happening that even videos that try to condense it all are still hours long. And so it's kind of just gotten to the point where I really do think that we need some sort of a jumping off point for magic content. I think that's such a huge piece of not only solving these grievances that people have with magic planes and magic iconography not being used as much as it maybe should have. And just the fact that it feels like wasted potential, and another avenue that could be marketed, because I do think that's such a huge thing, going back to the Warhammer example of why people love Warhammer, because there's a lot of people, kind of three sects, I think, that either play the game, paint the minis, or that just love the lore. And really, I don't think there's very many of those sects within Magic. There's some people that maybe just collect the cards. There's some people that play the card game, but there's not a lot of people that just like the lore, just because there's not a lot there, or it's very old, or if it's just not all put together as well. I think Warhammer releases a novel every month or so, or maybe a little bit more than that, and they're full length and they're really well written is another thing. I know that like not all of the Magic stuff is completely put together. I know some of the graphic novels or comics were not super great either. The Planeswalker comics, I believe in particular, people had a lot of problems with. But I just feel like every time that they release a new set trailer, I'm in awe on how much production value is there, especially if you look at something like the War of the Spark trailer, where it's this awesome, monument to storytelling in the way that they have a reverse scene play out, and you can gather all of this awesome detail and this just amazing. It's such a catalyst that you can see to something greater that they could do with it. And I think that's really the problem. At least for me, that I see this where I'm like, you guys have so many awesome avenues here. And they've used so many styles, whether it be CG or animation, what have you, of just amazing stories, like little minuscule vignettes of what these sets are. And I think if put into more long form content, it would work way better. And that's why I think honestly the Netflix series would be one of the best things for it, because you could do that very easily, where you have one or two episodes, or maybe even a story arc over one plane with just these characters. You don't even have to make the multiversal thing. You could just have, hey, here's a 45-minute long little vignette of one specific plane, like Bloomborough or whatever, of this character going through this thing, and maybe it's a 2-bar, whatever, but you have these little stories, these little tidbits that maybe add to a bigger world, but you don't need that overarching content. You totally could do it, which is kind of the thing that they seem to be going towards, where everything has to connect anymore, that it has to be multiverse, because Marvel kind of poisoned everyone with that idea. But I still think that it's such a great way to really get that extra market that they're really looking for. And they've shown in the past, especially recently, I mean, just around the time that the Fallout precons came out, we also got the Fallout show, and that blew up popularity for Fallout. It had record sales. Fallout 4 was getting insanely popular, more than it ever has, because of that. Same thing with The Witcher. People started reading the books and playing the games because everyone loved The Witcher show. even stuff like Arcane, League of Legends, and it's always been popular, but you just introduce new people to that otherwise wouldn't have seen it because you're entering a new market. So I think both on the side of wanting more players to get into the game and just by popularity, but it's awesome for Wizards because there's the money right there. Just market it to more people, and they've shown in the past, and this is something that they talked about. I will link the video from the command zone in the description below, so you can go watch it for yourself to kind of have your own thoughts on it. But they talked about the fact that Legendary Entertainment and Hasbro have both done amazing movies. I mean, I think the best example really is the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and the other Wizards of the Coast giant property, where it was extremely well done, and people are sitting here waiting for more. And that, of course, like Stranger Things has brought a lot more people into the game after seeing it. I think it's just such a great thing, and I really hope that they put that same amount of effort into the Magic movie and make it what it needs to be. Maybe we have a Sonic thing where if they do somehow mess it up, or if they see that people are not as interested in it, I hope they really take their audience feedback into it. And if it needs a revision because it doesn't seem that good, or if people don't have a great amount of reception to it, even if it comes out in bombs, I really do hope that in the future that does not totally dissuade them from trying again, because I feel like it's such an amazing opportunity for them to really grow Magic from what it already is. And on top of that, we are getting the movie, and that was one thing, is this is years in advance, and they say that in the video, where this is very much the base talks of what might be the movie. They are just saying that now we have the idea thrown out there that we are these two companies have partnered to make this thing. They got to figure out the actors, have to figure out filming times, budgets, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot that goes into making a movie, of course, especially when you're working at such a grand scale as these giant blockbuster making studios. That yeah, it's gonna take a while to come out. But another thing on top of that they talked about was this is not going to be just a one-time thing. They're already planning for it to be a success. You can very much tell, because not only are they going to have the animated series on Netflix, they're also doing a live action series. And I don't know if it's on Netflix specifically. It probably will be just wherever streaming. So that is based in the same world as the movie. So the movie's sort of that kicking off part, sort of like a Marvel thing where you watch Endgame and then, the WandaVision or the Loki series, whatever comes out afterwards, it kind of ties into it as well. And I think that is such a great thing. And I'm super stoked for it. And that's really why I wanted to make this short podcast episodes. I really wanted to sort of just let people know, because I know this is a brand new thing, and kind of get that out there where it may be. And I'm very much excited. I know tempering my expectations is probably a good thing as well, because who knows what this may end up being, but I think there's so much capacity to do good here and to make it a successful product, that if Wizards messes this up, I think that's such a huge egg on their face, and egg on the audience's face for it's such a huge thing that could be very easy to do right. I don't think it takes that much. Like I feel like very recently Hollywood has perfected the formula of giving the nerds what they want, and just enough that it's not overbearing or cringy, but it's just what right. And I think one of the best aspects of that, but besides the D&D movie that I think incorporated the themes of D&D and the actual concepts as well as they could have, while still giving it to a normal audience that didn't have to have that prerequisite of knowing D&D, is Spider-Man. I think the Spider-Man, the newest trilogy with Tom Holland, is one of the best versions of this, because as a Spider-Man fan, everyone loves all three Spider-Men. Whether or not you like the second Garfield movie or the third Tobey Maguire movie, everyone pretty much has a consensus that they like those Spider-Man movies, or they like the character, at least in how they're portrayed. Whether or not they have favorites is a whole different thing. But what they managed to do with those movies is both show characters from the fiction that we love in an awesome light, or in a new way, make a new storyline that was, compelling. And then, towards the end, Far From Home, they managed to kind of tie it all together and give us everything we wanted, wrap it up in a neat little bow, but still provide, a compelling storyline. And I think that's very much what I would love to see Wizards do. Whether or not they actually go through with that, remains to be seen. And, these are only whispers. We barely have any information besides, I think, maybe a trailer, maybe some sort of sneak peek here and there, and then the initial release video. These type of videos like I'm doing now are going to be mostly what's going to be flooding the internet pretty soon here. But I think it's such an awesome opportunity. I'm really excited to hear about it, and I would love to hear everyone else's sort of discourse and discussion on this topic, because I think it's such a huge thing, and I'm really excited to see over the next week or so how people sort of take it, and even kind of the crazy brain theories of just this or that, or they've been hinting at this or this, or whatever ends up being. I really want to see how the community kind of takes to this. I know a lot of people love to be cynical about it, and I think that's still not a horrible stance to take, but I think I kind of have this thing of pessimistic optimism, is what I call it, where you can still have this optimistic outlook of something happening, but in a pessimistic way, where it's like, okay, I can be, if I think something may not happen, or if I think it's bad, then if I'm in that mindset, I'm either right or I'm pleasantly surprised. And I think that's really what the best mindset to take is here, is just kind of restrain your sort of expectations on what this could be and what it will be. I don't think there's too much we can really glean from right now, and I think over debating it is also a thing we don't want to do, because the more hype that builds, there's a point where it's never going to live up to those expectations that people have of it. So I think really right now, just I think it's more interesting than anything to see what this may do for Wizards and Magic as a game, rather than the specifics of what it's going to do as a movie and the fiction of it, which I think is still a very interesting thing, but not as relevant to the physical things that we can control and that we can really more determine. But I do think that this is going to be probably a larger turning point for Magic, and I know it's become extremely popular in recent years, but I think this is sort of that extra level. This is sort of the Stranger Things for Magic the Gathering, where it's this giant icon, this giant, in your face, here's this thing. And I was actually very surprised they hadn't done something like this before, because, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon are both big proponents of having some sort of, media that can be consumed rather than just the card game. Especially with Pokemon, I mean they've done their marketing the best in that way. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a huge thing, and definitely something that people should look out. If nothing else, whether this is extremely good or extremely bad, a lot of eyes are going to be on this movie once it comes out. And whether people like the movie or not, that is going to put a lot of attention on the card game. So I would not be surprised if it absolutely blows up once this happens, and Magic becomes more of a household name than it already is. And that's what I'm most excited for. I really can't wait to see where this game goes. So that's what I would leave as sort of as a final message here, as just be prepared, because a lot is going to change and a lot is going to happen. And I know that might be a little, over the top and a little sort of a mystical bally, but I do think that that's most likely where we're going to be heading. But yeah, as I said, I will leave a link to that Command Zone spoiler episode in the description below, just so you can go check that out for yourself. But other than that, I really hope to hear from you guys down in the comments what your thoughts are on this, and I will see you all in the next one.